Welcome to This Week in Princeton Vikings Athletics here on VikeNation.org and ESP Media powered by Sidearm Sports. My name is Jason Griefer. Once again, we are joined by Princeton AD Joe Roberts. Joe, good to see you once again. Let's get right into it. We have a very, very busy show for Vikings fans here today. At the top of last week's show, we talked about some news and notes from the winter sports season. We talked about having a new football coach, and we also talked about the retirement of longtime girls basketball coach Jill Phillips and kind of the behind the scenes of what went into her decision, your conversations with her. And we also talked about your plan for her successor. And you had talked about that this was good. This was intending to be a quick process. You wanted to get somebody in place to get the program, continue to keep it rolling. And it took 1 week from the time we talked last to now all of a sudden we have a new head coach, and it's for fans that didn't see the news, Dee Davis, a 2003 Princeton grad and more than a legend in girls basketball at Princeton High School, is now the head coach. She went on from Princeton to Vanderbilt, where she had a heck of a career there, was named an SEC legend, spent some time playing in the WNBA, and she's been coaching at various schools at the Division I level for a number of years, and now she comes home to take over the girls basketball program at Princeton. First of all, how quickly, when you began the search, did Coach Davis get on your radar? And secondly, once you started conversations with her, when did you personally know this is the choice? She's the one I want to recommend to the board.
Well, Jason, I mean, it's been a great turnaround. We're so excited to have Dee back first and foremost, and to lead our girls basketball program and pick up the reins from Coach Phillips and just keep the momentum going and set that standard. I think the comment was made, Coach Phillips now has the all-time wins record here at Princeton. Well, we are ready to go ahead and move that record into the second spot after D, once we get D and get her comfortable. So she's got, nothing short of a lot of high standards to achieve. But, when Coach Phillips came in and met with us and told us that this was going to be her last season coaching basketball, I had it in my mind at that moment. I learned many years ago that as an athletic director, you always need to have a list of names or ideas or thoughts in case a change does need to happen or doesn't, just on their own wanting to happen. And she hangs in our rafters. She's a Viking through and through. She has played at the highest level that you can play in the WNBA for women's basketball, played overseas for a year. But one of the key points to it is that then she went back and she coached high school basketball in Tennessee. And she took a program to the state finals in back-to-back years. They lost in the semifinal game, but she built a program and did something that they had not accomplished at that school before. And when talking to her, one of the things that she brought up was that moment when she went back to coaching. That was when she was most fulfilled because she was imparting what she had learned on and off the court from her coaches that guided her and was giving that back to kids. And she has an unbelievable game plan. She has desire to see these girls excel, not just in basketball, but what are they going to do after that? When she met the girls yesterday, the high school girls, obviously, they were very shy a little bit. They would ask a few questions of her, but they were real hesitant. Then she went down and got a chance to meet the girls that had played 7th and 8th grade basketball. And just to talk to them, and a few of the 6th graders, because we have our Little Vikes program. So a few of them came in to meet her, and they were just loaded with questions. And one of the questions that came out is what do you want for us? And she said, I want to see you be the best you can be in whatever that is, not just basketball, softball, soccer, chess. It didn't matter. Whatever it is that you can be the best in, I want to see that, and I want to help you achieve those goals. So she has a lot of passion for kids, and we're really excited about that, and we're excited to get her going in. She's going to be here sometime in May, and then once she gets here, it's boots on the ground and running full force. So.
Right now, the director of basketball operations at Texas Arlington. So take care of things down there. And then up here, we'll be looking forward to seeing how things go for now Coach Davis at Princeton as she comes back home. And we'll be keeping track of progress of that in the weeks and months to come. So very exciting there. Couldn't have asked on paper and starting out, couldn't have asked for a better successor to Coach Phillips there. So we'll be keeping an eye on that.
Not at all. And hats off to our administrative leadership, Mr. Burton, our superintendent, Mr. Ballmer, our principal, for believing in what we were trying to set, the goals we were trying to set, and the support they gave us to get us into a position where we realize that everything that we do is so important. And it's not just about athletics. It's about every student athlete, fine arts to music to any club or organization, but there's just a belief in our kids. And we had a really great game plan going into it, and it worked itself through.
And it certainly seemed like off to a good start anyway with her initial interactions with everybody around the program, especially youth. That's pretty cool story about the current members of the team being a little gun shy. And I guess maybe the resume can be a little intimidating for those kids, but for the younger ones, that youthful exuberance, they don't know what they don't know, and to be ready to go with questions, and then also have her response. I'd imagine that's got to feel pretty good from your perspective too, to know that she's already has the right mindset to take things over from Coach Phillips.
Yeah, it was really funny. We were talking right before the show about the vaccinations and what have you, and the first initial contact I had with Coach Davis was FaceTime, and it was that Friday after the second vaccination. And I told you I was having all the, I had the fever going and the aches and the chills and what have you. And I'm sitting here in the office and I'm talking to her and I'm like, now, Dee, if I say something that just totally throws you off, understand it's out of sight and mind. But if you want to turn and run now, I understand that too. So it's been a great run here.
And thankfully, nothing bad was said there, and
right.
she's coming back. Yes, and she understood that, and she still choose to come back home. So we'll be keeping a track on her as things move along here. But let's move along on the show, and let's now start talking about our spring sports teams. And let's once again start on the diamond with the baseball team. And we talked last week about how the struggles to start the season, particularly for the pitching staff. They've been hit around a lot. Going into last week's set of 3 games that wound up being played with Lakota West twice, and then also Oak Hills this past Monday. And unfortunately, things just not going their way right now. They dropped the 3 games that have been played since we've last talked. So losing streak continues, unfortunately, right now. I'm just wondering, what's the demeanor amongst the boys right now on the team? I know the coaching staff is doing everything they can to keep them, uplifted, energetic, positive, but I'm wondering what the demeanor is that you can tell from the boys. And it ain't a point right now where they can just maybe feel, even if we just get one break, we can start to turn it around.
I think that's where we are, right? You have a whole different mix of things going right now. And, the record, it semi-translates to what's going on the field, but it also doesn't, because we talk about the level of competition that we are playing. So we know that we can play. We know those things. We have the confidence there. Again, it goes back to, we're trying to develop some additional pitching, but we're trying to get the bats going at the same time. And 1 or 2 different little errors can make a difference in a ball game. And I think there's a couple of emotions going, and it's when I see the kids as they're heading over to the diamond, or they're getting ready to get on the bus. You have a couple things happening. One, it is April the 13th, and we're, 5 weeks away from the end of school and graduation. And, you have all of the different mixes coming into play with that. And then you're trying to maintain some stability and have a season. And I think that portion of it comes into it as well. And so no one is throwing it in and saying, we've had enough of this. Everyone is still fighting and battling and scrapping and crawling. The key to it is they're just trying to figure out a way to get, let's have one less error. Let's have one less run come in, and let's start to put the bat on the ball a little bit more. And I think we can produce. We have a good chance. to make a run here coming up, the second half of what I would call the second half of the season. And again, it comes back to doing the little things for the kids. And it comes back to, the coaches need to look at it too and say, okay, this way we might need to adjust and make some changes here in this rotation or this lineup to see if we can get the bats going a little bit better. But there could be some light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, obviously the schedule isn't set up to do that, but like we talked about last week, we can lay some foundation, and all of a sudden we could get some momentum going in that draw, in that seed for the sectionals, and walk out feeling pretty confident on a high note instead of a low note, and as we move into the off season. So super proud of what they're trying to do. It's just not been the easiest of situations for anyone, given all the constraints that we've gone through, but still a lot of baseball left to play.
Kind of a similar story on the softball side of things. Looked like we were headed down a similar path where, things just aren't going our way. And that seemed like it was going to be that kind of going story until Monday in a wild one against Sycamore. You get up early 4-0, and then all of a sudden in the fourth inning, Sycamore hangs 11 runs on the board in the fourth inning. And it could be very easy for the girls to say, oh gosh, here we go again. And then all of a sudden your team comes back and scores 8 runs in the bottom of the sixth and winds up winning the game 14-13. So they get the first win of the season there. And, this is a situation here. I'm imagining that not only you, but the coaches have to be thrilled with the way the girls hung in and fought and grinded their way back into a game where it could have very easily just been a situation where they could have said, well, today's not our day. We'll just get them the next time out. But they didn't do that here.
No, I think Coach Black and his staff kind of said, listen, you see what Sycamore just did? We can do the same thing, and it's just a matter of, again, and softball is one of those unique sports that, if, it's a pitching and catching. And if you can get that bat on the ball again, you can score runs. And you don't need to worry about the power side of the game in softball as much as you do putting the ball in play. And, preventing that pitcher from just striking you out constantly. So I think once they got in their groove, I think it really went to their benefit. And what a great way to end the game in an exciting fashion like that, to be able to say, man, it's almost like made for ESP Media to stream this game right here, because perfect setting last night, perfect backdrop last night. Excellent playing conditions. The weather went away. We were able to get the fields ready for the game, and we were able to produce a little bit. So now we've got to get back into the groove, get prepared today for tomorrow, so we can get things moving again and just keep it going through the weekend.
And we'll be looking to keep an eye on that. But again, that's a big win, especially given the first week and a half was pretty tough, and it could have very easily, this team could have just folded, like we said, and they didn't, and they kept fighting. That's a huge building block going forward for the rest of the year. And there's still a lot of games to be played.
There is, we've got Mount Healthy tonight at Mount Healthy, and then we go to Fairfield on Wednesday, and then we come back here with Mason. But so you get on the road for a couple games, kind of get that environment as well, get you used to a little bit of tournament feel, if you will, back-to-back road games in a sense, and just kind of get us into that groove again, and get us ready for what we're trying to do to make the stretch run.
Let's switch gears. Let's jump into the pool, and let's talk about your water polo teams. And let's start with the boys first. And pretty busy weekend for the boys, and went up into the Napoleon Invitational there. Win-loss record, maybe not what they would have wanted, go 1-2-1 up there. But we're also talking about a very, very loaded level of competition as well up at that Napoleon Invite there. Give up 12 goals each of the last 2 games, which is an aberration given how well they've played on the season. But that was against St. Charles and Upper Arlington. For fans that may not be aware, how good was the group of teams up there at the Napoleon Invite, and how do you think it prepares them for the Ohio Cup coming up?
So I'm going to relay it to what we did with our initial invite, and when we went to Upper Arlington. Though St. Charles and Upper Arlington are probably the most premier or the toughest water polo teams in the state, and quite possibly you could probably place them on a national type level in terms of their string of of excellence that they've had. Their level of game is just a little bit different than others. I think that's what gets us ready, and kind of what we were talking about last week with the girls. As
Yeah.
you know, again, we just kept the ball down at the wrong end of the pool a little too much. And when that happens, they're going to put shots on you, and you're not going to be able to recover from some of those. So I think Coach Tamaris knows this is all, again, a building a foundation and preparing us for that stretch run. Upper Arlington and St. Charles are both great opponents for us to get us ready. I think we'll see them multiple times coming up again. Water polo is one of those sports where you do see one another just constantly because there's so few schools that still offer the program. But be that as it may, that doesn't take anything away from what our boys are doing right now. And, you know, we come back tomorrow night with Mason. It's senior night for our boys and girls. You know, we're back in the home waters here and just kind of gearing us up. And like you said, getting ready for the Ohio Cup. And then again, getting ready for that stretch run with the regional and the state finals.
You just touched on over on the girls' side. They were busy this weekend as well up at Upper Arlington Invite. Don't pick up a win there. They go 0-2-1. But again, another day where you're loaded with top teams up there. And we talked about it, and you alluded to it just a moment ago. The way last week we were touching on the way they were kind of dominating on both sides of the ball. And one way they were doing that was dominating possession. You know, it's hard to allow goals when the other team doesn't have the ball. That seemed to turn a little bit this weekend, giving up 31 goals in the 3 games. But again, you played a very high level of competition there. Are the coaches looking at this weekend as attributing it more towards that level of competition, or are there maybe some deeper concerns with the way your team was defending this past weekend?
Well, I and I haven't had a chance to talk to Coach Jen yet, but I mean, I think I don't know if they're just trying to set the stable. I think it's more about repetition for them. I think it's, trying to adjust again. If you need to move an offensive swimmer into a defensive position or making some adjustments there, obviously guarding the goal is very important. But again, keeping the ball at the other end of the water, I think, the key to it, much like soccer, in my opinion. If you keep the ball at the other half of the field, then you have a better chance of scoring, but, obviously preventing from being scored upon. So,
Sure.
Both Coach Tamaris and Coach Shell have just this wonderful ability to just kind of say on to the next, if you will. We'll get through this session here and then just on to the next match. And so I think that's part of it. Right now their focus is probably getting ready to take on Mason and then getting ready to see what's in front of them after that. And, you never try to put one game in front of the other. So I think that's kind of where we are with the girls. Much like what you saw with the baseball side of things, softball, attitude wise, everybody's kind of just right in it and ready just to go on and keep playing. And I think some of that has to do with that. We're in the water. We get to do things. Let's just keep going. So I think tomorrow night will be a little bit different scenario for them and on track.
A lot of teams right now already kind of some approaching the midway point of the season, others still early in it. 2 of those teams that are early in the seasons anyway, tennis and volleyball just getting going here, really just really through the first handful of games and matches thus far. Let's start with the tennis team first. They've got Oak Hills and Lakota West coming up this week. How did you feel they looked in the opening week last week, and what kind of things are they looking to shore up early on?
Well, from a scoring perspective, I mean, obviously we are not we're not where we need to be right now. I think part of it is, again, getting the rust off and knocking the cobwebs off so that the kids are ready. What I really kind of thought would happen this week is not happening yet, and that's a little bit warmer weather set in, and to give the kids a chance to get outside more and get it, and more in terms of, because they're outside right now, but more in terms of the rhythm of things. And when it's warmer outside, they have a chance to get more matches in or more time on the practice court because there's more daylight and what have you. So I think part of that has to do with it. No excuses in whatsoever that we're trying to give, but everybody needs to remember we are just now getting started. We came off of a break. and we're battling some weather elements. And, Fairfield, Northwest, Middletown, you could take it or leave it right there. And we just have to keep on playing our game. And I think Coach Mulholland knows that. I think we're solid where we need to be. We probably need to pick it up a little bit on the double side to keep things going. But, today with Oak Hills, it's anybody's match. So let's just keep it moving and see where we go with it.
Over on the volleyball side, they've got a busy week this week. Lakota East, Edgewood, Mason, all coming up here after getting going last week against Oak Hills, Taylor, and Lakota West. They're struggled out of the gate there. Oak Hills took it to you pretty good. You go 5 sets with Taylor, but ultimately come up short there. Yeah. Do you look at it as a similar type of situation with the volleyball team with the tennis? And you mentioned it too, just kind of need to get the rust off and just kind of get back into the flow of things early on.
100%, but a little bit different. I also need to make sure our kids are learning. We've talked about this. Coach Duckworth has an unbelievable group of student athletes, but not very many of them have played volleyball competitively. Yeah. And so I think some of that is that learning mechanics and the mechanics of the sport and the mechanics of the rotation. From an athletic standpoint, they are certainly going to be able to do that. And it's very exciting to continue to watch them do that. And we've got Lakota East here tonight. And much like what you've seen in the traditional, it's going to be a battle back and forth for serves, but it's a matter of us getting the ball in play and being in the right spots to return it and not try to overcompensate, use our athleticism to try to overcompensate from the technique standpoint. So I think some of that comes into it as well. What I do see from our boys volleyball players is just the fun. They're having fun playing it because, again, many of them have never played the sport competitively before, and it's just a new opportunity for them, and they're really excited about that part of it. So tonight's match should be really exciting.
We'll be looking forward to keeping track of that as it goes along there as well. And of course, as we said, also Edgewood and Mason coming up the next few days. So to get more opportunities to knock that rust off here. Let's move on and let's talk about another big event that took place over the weekend at Princeton. And that was the Princeton Invite for track and field teams. Also served as Senior Day. A chance to honor your senior track and field athletes for both the boys and the girls. Mother Nature didn't exactly do us a lot of favors there. The conditions weren't exactly ideal, maybe for some runners and the field athletes. They like being out there in the rain, but nevertheless, setting that aside there, how do you feel like the event went?
Well, I'll go back. The conditions at noon were perfect. Mm-hmm. The conditions at 1:15, in my opinion, because I was standing out in it, they can have it. So no, first off, hats off to our boys and girls track coaches, Coach Braddix, Coach Smith, and their staff just did an amazing job of making sure that our kids were in the position to be in, bringing in and lining up some of the best competition in Southwest Ohio, and including bringing Dublin down. But to give our kids to see what it's going to take to go on outside of our conference and run it at a high level. But then not only that, our maintenance staff did an amazing job of getting our facility ready for the day. Everyone in the office here, they were on point with making sure things were right for our invite because, from a high school perspective at Princeton, we only run one track meet here. And it is the Spurlock Invitational. And that is just a great time for us to showcase our facility and our student athletes and our program in front of some very, very high level and high class and quality student athletes that we bring in. So, from an operational standpoint, it was a great day. From a competitive standpoint, our student athletes saw some things that kind of made them wake up a little bit and say, okay, now the bar is starting to get set as early as it is. And we can use the conditions to a point because we had to shut the field events down. We got shot and disc in, but long jump, high jump, and pole vault, it just wasn't going to be safe enough to continue going and moving forward there. So our student athletes in those events didn't get to see much, but they got to see some things early. But from a running perspective, I think we've got some kinks to work out. but that's what this season's for, to get us ready for conference and then obviously into districts.
Good weekend nonetheless. As you said,
Yeah.
Mother Nature kind of off and on, as is kind of how it's been the case here as of late.
I always equate it back. Lexington, Ohio, the second weekend in April, just like this past weekend for us here at Princeton, is the Lexington Track Invitational. It never turns into spring until after the Lexington Track Invitational. They have snow. We always had snow at our track invite there, but now down here, we're just hoping to have some good, non-rain weather or warmer rain, if you will. But yeah, it was a great day for the kids, and hats off to our senior student athletes as well.
Got another great day coming up at Princeton High School as well in the very, very near future. A spring signing day coming up here. We've got a dozen athletes that'll officially put pen to paper there and make it official as to where they're headed off to the next level to play in college athletics. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's tomorrow, Wednesday, April the 14th at 3:00. We're going to have our 12 senior student athletes that are going to commit to continuing their playing career after high school. And anytime we have an opportunity to showcase our students, it's a great feeling. And I love the way that Temet Duckworth coordinates and organizes this event so that we are including multiple sport participation athletes. And it's not just singularly focused on one sport. We have the Dexter twins that are going to run track at Indiana Tech, Alicia Hall, who's going to play softball at Thomas More, Leona Killington, who's going to play softball at Miami Hamilton, Ariane Turner, who's going to play football at Mount St. Joe, Madison Rochelle, who's going to commit for basketball at Radford, Greg Johnson and Jesse Olverson, both respectfully, are going to go play basketball at Goshen College and Wilberforce University, Taryn Cash, who's going to commit to play basketball, Rayana Wilkerson, who's going to play basketball at Adrian College, Javon Neal is going to go on and play football at Wittenberg, and then Brooklyn Bowen has committed to continue her tennis career at Virginia State University. So very diverse backgrounds in terms of what they're going on to do, but their passions are in there. And it's just really exciting to be able to capture that tomorrow afternoon and recognize these student athletes for all they've done for us here.
One final event here that took place over the weekend here as we're winding down the show here. So we'll quickly touch on this as well. The Princeton Vikings Hall of Fame class of 2020 was finally able to be honored this past weekend. A great class of folks going in there. Tell us a little bit about how that night was for you and for the honorees.
I think what you just said a minute ago, Jason's right. It was the 2020 class. We intended to induct them in October. Obviously, COVID pandemic prevented us from being able to have any type of event indoors. The Sharonville Convention Center wasn't able to do that, but we kept the idea open that we needed to recognize this 2020 class. So working with the Sharonville Convention Center, Latoya did a really, really wonderful job of being able to keep that line of communication open when they told us that they would be able to do it in April. But we had some really, really tough restrictions that we had to go through. But again, no one really knew what to expect. And so the attendance number was down from what it has been, but we were prepared for it to be down. And our intent all along was the fact that we had a group of individuals that have earned an opportunity to be recognized and be discussed. And it was a very special night to listen to their stories, to listen to their passion for Princeton, and it is still with them today. And Coach Paul Andrews, Ross Marin, and Coach Mancuso could not be there. So we did audio recordings of their three speeches or messages that they wanted to give back. And it was just so impactful to listen to them all share stories of their love for Princeton and their love for this community and what it meant for them. And I don't know if they did because we didn't ask them, but it was almost as if none of them had anything written down. It was all from the heart. And that was just really incredible to see and listen to. And then Nicole Donnelly, her message coming back, and Maurice Harvey. Maurice Harvey was very emotional. In fact, he just got up to the podium and he simply said it all. He just said, thank you. he couldn't speak anything else. And then we had a representative from the Saunders family talk about Joe and John Saunders, who graduated from Glendale School in 1937 and 38, respectfully. And you look at the body of work that they did on the track, on the football field, what they did in that time frame, in that period, and listening to them. And the fact of the matter that both of them are in the National High School Hall of Fame. And to be able to honor them for here at Princeton, while Glendale School was not called Princeton High School in 1937 and 1938, they are Vikings. And it was just a wonderful evening to be a part of and to listen to all those great stories. We are going to bring that 2020 class back. The October 8 weekend, 8-9 weekend is our Hall of Fame weekend. It's surrounded with homecoming as well, and we will honor and recognize that group of individuals at our football game on Friday night, October 8th as well, along with the class of 21. So, it's just part of what you do when you have Hall of Fames, and that's to give them what they've earned. It was great to see.
Yeah. A lot of hard work goes in, not only for the student athletes, but for administrators like yourself, and to have a night like this. Pretty cool to be able to give these people their long overdue honor there for sure. So nevertheless, a lot of great stuff, not only in the Hall of Fame night, but a lot of great stuff happening this week at Princeton, and a lot of great stuff looking forward to in the coming weeks, Joe. Certainly appreciate your time here today to talk about it.
Absolutely, Jason. Thank you so much for having me on this morning.
That is Princeton Athletic Director Joe Roberts joining us for This Week in Princeton Vikings Athletics here on VikeNation.org and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.